is we'll let people fill in here for about 4 minutes, and then I will do an introduction of who you are based on what I know, and I'll just talk about some quick upcoming events that we have coming up, and then I'll hand the mic over to you and let you take the show. And then
Perfect.
from that point, I'll be pretty quiet unless you need me. And then I think it'd be really important to do a like kind of like Q&A type situation at the end of this.
Sure. So you want me to kind of do like a 10, 15 minute spiel about MagicDoor and what we do and how we use AI, or do you want to have a back and forth about that?
Yeah, well, I think you just take as much time as you need. But I think based on even when I did this, and I just had tons of questions just because
Yeah.
it's so unique.
I
And
I think
I
I
think
would prefer the I think I prefer the back and forth. So let me like talk a little bit about what we do, and
okay,
then let's just have a back and forth because I think then you guys have different questions than I think of because I'm an engineer. I think a little bit different than most people. So I might not think about the kind of questions that you have want to get answered, and I think that would be much more useful for your audience to kind of get those questions answered. So let me start like telling about what we have and what we're gonna launch about AI, and
yeah,
then I think we can start having some Q&A about that.
okay, cool. Sounds like a plan. Hey guys, the ones that are jumping in right now, we're going to start here in about 3 minutes. We just want to let people feed in here real quick so people don't miss the very beginning. I appreciate you guys jumping on. I recognize almost all the names that are on here right now. This is a revolutionary product that's out there, and we had Kasper on a podcast, and I was like, dude, we got to talk further. This is amazing. So we will be starting here, like I said, in about 3 minutes, and then feel free to put any questions you have in the box below. Love seeing all the faces on here. Appreciate you guys. And then if again, hey, if there's somebody you think that would benefit from this knowledge, please share them the link. We'd love to have as many of you on here as possible, and we will also put this recording on our Rio Radio YouTube channel. So if you're not subscribed to that, please jump on that. Okay, so again, we'll start here in 2 minutes, guys. We just want to let people fill in here. I'm gonna grab 34. Thank you, John. Again, for the guys, people jumping on right now, we'll start here in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Ryan Miller jumping on from a trip. I think you were out in New Orleans. That's pretty awesome. Okay. Okay, so hey, just gonna start off with some basic information about upcoming events, and then I'll let Kasper take the show here. But my name's Ted Kosh. I run the local Omaha RIA, and what we do is we provide networking for local investors that want to learn more about real estate investing. We hold our events off of 180th and Dodge in the A Loft. We hold events on first Tuesdays of every month, unless it's on a holiday or an election day. And then we also hold our luncheons on the third Fridays. Luncheons are free to join. Everybody is welcome. We've been getting 40 or 50 people there, so we really appreciate that very much. In our main events, we bring local and national speakers. We're hoping to bring Kasper in this year also to speak to us. But we have a couple upcoming events. December 3rd, we have Jordan Downey. He's going to talk about 2024 tax preparation. And then in January, we had Jeff Beals from the Grow Omaha radio show. He's going to speak about growth and development in Omaha. And then we haven't advertised it yet. You're first to hear it here, but we just locked on Jason Dries. He is a business coach. We call him the coach of the stars. He had over 3,000 people he was coaching. He's a personal business coach to Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. And we're flying him in March. So that should be a huge event. His podcast comes out next week, I think. So definitely check that out. So we appreciate you guys jumping on today. We have Kasper Sogaard, and we try to come up with different times to do these events all the time. So I love your feedback and what you think. This is our first lunch time event. We've done them at 8 o'clock at night. We've done them at 6 o'clock. We've done 3 to 5. We've done first thing in the morning. So this is our first lunch one. Looks like this is a good time to do it. And so we appreciate that. But Kasper was on episode 134 of our podcast. And so if you want like a deep dive on who Kasper is and everything he's done, please check that out. It's really eye-opening in his background with working for Amazon, working on the AI systems there, and then you created all the lovely commercials with Hulu, and also a real estate investor, and he has properties, and you need a solution. So we're going to let Kasper take it from here.
Great. Well, thank you, Ted, very much. So let me start out like the people who don't know me. So yeah, as I said, I'm Kasper Sogaard. And as I said, I'm a real estate investor and a software engineer, or lead a software engineering manager. And as I grew my portfolio, I kind of saw a need in the market for a new property management software solution, because I was looking at the competition and kind of having an understanding of both property management and software development. I got very disappointed with what is the options out there, especially around the AI thing, where I come in with a lot of understanding about what AI can do or what AI can't do. And I looked at all the competition out there. None of them, at least 2 years ago, had any real AI integration. And even today, I would say most of them still don't. And that's kind of why I decided to start MagicDoor. Mainly because I wanted to create a system that is not overly complicated, a system that can be used by anybody. So if you have 1 unit, 2 unit, 10 units, 1,000 units, you can use the same software system. And then one of my expertise areas is really figuring out how to scale the people that you already have to do a lot more. So when I worked at Amazon, we had about 5,000 to 10,000 new content episodes come in a day. And a webinar like this, it would be a content episode. But for that episode, we would have subtitles, we would have poster art, we have movies art, availability, contracts, lawyer agreements, all that kind of stuff. And all of that had to be quality controlled. And if you aggregate all that together, that's about 1 million things a day that needs to be quality controlled. We only had 17 operators at Amazon. Like, how can you quality control 1 million things a day? And the only real answer to that is with AI. So what AI does is that it figures out, hey, what might not be right. The AI itself doesn't quality control like full. It just figures out, hey, what is not right? What does a human need to look at? And what can a human skip? And using AI like that is really how you can scale very few people to do a lot more with a lot less. So being an expert in those kind of systems and those kind of environments is where I looked at property management. And I saw that, hey, this is an industry, especially with the new advances within large language models, that can really be innovated upon. And I didn't see anybody doing anything about that at all. And there's a few areas mainly where innovation is really ripe, and that is maintenance request handling. For example, like we spend a lot of our time coordinating for maintenance requests, because we as property managers, we don't, unless you're an owner, of course, but as property managers, we don't really normally go out and do the plumbing work or do the roofing. We find a vendor to do that. And we normally have 1 or 2 vendors that we work with. So the main work when you get a maintenance request in is to gather more information to figure out, is this actually something we need to fix? And once you figure that out, you need to assign what vendor to send out and do it, and tell the vendor about and coordinate with the vendor and tenant when to come out. And this is something where AI can really take that burden away from you. And to kind of look at the parallel I talked about with Amazon is that if you just need to send a vendor out to fix a floor or fix some plumbing, you don't really need to be involved in that if you have a pre-approved vendor. It's only when there's something like really bad or something that is new that you need to be involved in it. And that's kind of the approach that we are taking at MagicDoor. It's like we try to automate all those day-to-day, like busy work, so you can focus on the thing that really matters to you as a property manager. So you can go out and talk more about finding more properties, or if you're an owner operator, you can spend less time on managing your properties. So that's really the goal of using AI here, is really to reduce the amount of time that you have. So at MagicDoor, we have AI in many different places built into it. So maintenance request handling. So we can handle maintenance requests all the way from a tenant sending a text message, hey, my AC is broken, all the way up until the vendor goes out and submits a bill. We have maintenance requests in our chat. So if somebody only speaks Spanish, the AI would translate it into English for you. And when you then send a reply back in English, we would translate it back to Spanish. And we even have an AI that can detect what languages of people are speaking. So I kind of joke with my friends is that we even support Old Norse, which nobody speaks anymore, but our AI can if we want to. We support Russian, Japanese, Chinese, any language out there you might find. And the great thing here is that especially in Las Vegas, all of my handymen are Chinese and they don't really speak English most of the time. But my AI can also translate the messages between my vendors and my tenants. So even though my tenants are not able to speak verbally, they can text communicate with each other through my platform. And this again, this works with any language.
What about Swahili? What about Swahili?
I haven't checked, but I'm 100% sure we have it. We have over, I think like over 200 something languages that we have. We can also speak Latin.
I had a Swahili tenant recently, and luckily I hadn't found somebody in our RIA group to come speak Swahili to him, but that was a nightmare.
Yeah. So one of the great things is that I have a 20-plex in Las Vegas that's not in a super good area. All the properties around me has roughly about 40% vacancy rate. My property for a year straight now, I've had 0% vacancy because every time I have a vacancy available, I have a line out the door of Spanish speaking only tenants. Because for some reason, all the property management companies that manage the properties around me, they don't have any Spanish speakers in the office, so they can't communicate with them. I don't speak Spanish, and my wife doesn't either. But our AI does. So we are completely able to have a back and forth with them. That has not only meant that my vacancy rate has been reduced down to 0, it also meant that the quality of tenants that I get in has been a lot higher than what my neighbors have. Because my neighbors don't really have a choice. They have to take anybody in who they get. I have a long list of tenants that I can put in, which means that I can select ones that has less collections or higher income based on the criteria that we have, of course. So it's really helped a lot reduce my amount of time. Like just that in itself, reduce my time per spend for about a few hours per day to a few hours per week to manage my property. Because when you get good tenants in, they treat the apartment better, less stuff breaks, less maintenance requests. That's like, if I can give any advice, that's the best one, get good tenants. So there's a lot of things where I can really help out there. And there's a lot of small things where I can help out. So for example, when somebody sends a maintenance request to us, we actually review the tenants based on their self-reported data and their credit report score. And our AI review that data and compare them to figure out, hey, if there's any mismatches. Because that's one of the biggest things that you find, that if a tenant is self-reporting data that's much nicer than with a credit score report, you might want to look into that person a little bit more before you rent out to them. And it can be hard to do because there's a lot of data in credit reports. Like a lot of open and closed account, a lot of revolving account, payment history, and all that kind of stuff. It's easy for a human to miss things, especially when you have to compare two different reports, or the self-report data and the credit score report data. But an AI can do that perfectly every time. So it's not meant for you to kind of make the decision on who should rent this apartment, but it's meant to reduce the amount of time that you have to spend on selecting the tenant. The same thing when you get maintenance request in, our AI have an understanding of the laws and what might damage the property. So our AI would actually score maintenance requests based on urgency. So for example, like 100 is something that the building is on fire, you might want to call the fire department right now, or a 0 is that somebody reported that they have a dirty carpet. You don't really need to do anything about it. Anything between that, our AI can kind of score out how important a maintenance request is. And we have a self-learning habit there as well. So depending on how quickly you engage and how you engage with those maintenance requests, you're actually training the AI into what is important for you. So not only does it help you figure out like what you need to work on quickly, but it learns from you, so the way that you manage your properties. The AI is also, this is one of the greatest things about LLMs, is that it can understand context. It can actually do reasoning. So we provide a list of maintenance request categories that property managers themselves can customize, and then the AI can actually place maintenance requests into the right categories. So that's a big thing if you need to do reporting to owners about like what type of maintenance request you get in. You can, for example, see a graph like every summer or every winter, you get an uptick in HVAC maintenance request issues coming in. So you might want to preempt that next year to kind of go out do some tested ACs before the cold or the heat hits. We also have AI in our listings. So one of the things that we found is that writing good listings really help get better tenants in there. But most property managers don't spend a lot of time writing the listings. And that is mainly because it feels like the same thing. We're writing the same thing every time, just a little bit tweak on it. And then you have to syndicate it out to all those different listing platforms, such as Zillow.com, Rent.com, Apartments.com, Facebook Marketplace, MLS, all those different places. And they all have different requirements. So, for example, if you want to list on Facebook, I think it's like 150 words you can input. But whereas Zillow, you might have 1,000 words. So what normally happens is that people write the listings for the lowest common listing websites, for example, Zillow or Facebook Marketplace. And then they use that listing on Zillow and Apartments.com where they couldn't have a lot more information. So what we build out here, again, is an AI that writes the master listing for you. So that's a listing without any limitations on it. And you can edit that and update it and do whatever you want with it after the AI has written it, or you can write it 100% yourself. But then when you want to syndicate it to those listing platforms such as Zillow or Facebook or MLS, we have a dedicated AI model for each of those websites to rewrite the master listing into a format that fits perfectly within the requirements for that website. So that means that if you have a 2,000 words listing description, you want to post it on Facebook, it's going to rewrite that and condense it down to 150 words. And that means that you can get the perfect listing for all the different websites out there. And that really helps engagements on your listings. And it is something a lot of people underestimate. But I would say that if you have to write 40 different listings yourself manually every time, it's not worth the time. But if you can have AI do it for you, it definitely is. I think for most single-family homes where you get up to $2,000 to $3,000 plus in rent income, some property management companies normally hire a copywriter to write all those listings for you. And again, this is another expense that you can completely give away to an AI and do it for free. Another cool feature that we're launching in December is what we call the Genie Answers. And one of the big things that we have made a decision on, like one of our philosophies at MagicDoor, is that we don't want to force tenants to have an app installed on the phone. And we don't want tenants to have to go to a tenant portal website to do like set up auto payments, check their payment statement, that balances, all that kind of stuff. Now, we are providing it, but say we don't want to force tenants to do it, because there's a lot of tenants out there who are older or is not that technical competent or might not have phones or might not have computers. But most people today can text. So we have the goal of being able to have tenants do everything they can via text messages. So for example, a tenant can text message you, hey, I want to set up my payment account. Our AI is then going to engage with the tenant via text messages and ask for the account or routing number or credit card information. Sorry. And automatically add that into the system on behalf of the tenant. The AI can also ask, hey, do you want to set up auto payment for this? And if the tenant answers yes to that, it automatically set up the auto payment for whatever balance is due at the first of the month. The AI can also the AI can also do other things, like if the tenant writes in, hey, I got a new phone number, or hey, my email changed, the AI can automatically update those things on behalf of the tenant. So we really want to reduce the amount of work that you have to do to kind of like keep everything streamlined. Um, Another big thing that MagicDoor does is that we have what we like to call an homogeneous platform. So if you go to a lot of our competitors, they like to take the marketplace approach to their platforms. So for example, if you go one of competitors, they might suggest for you to have a deal with HappyCo or Property Melt, which is a management request platform. They might have another deal with another platform that deals with vendor management. They might have another deal with another platform that deals with communication of vendors or owners and stuff like that. The problem that those platforms are going to face now in the age of AI is that they don't have all the data anymore. All the data is spread out into multiple different places. And of course, those individual platforms won't share that data because that is their gold mine. Where MagicDoor, we are one big platform that doesn't go with the marketplace model. And that has the advantage, as I like to compare it to like an iPhone environment where everything just works together. So for example, if a tenant writes in a text message saying that, hey, my water's not working, the AI will see that message and say, hey, there's a maintenance request. But before that, it's going to check up on what work orders is currently ongoing. And it can see that we currently have a plumbing repair ongoing on that property. So the AI can then reply back to the tenant right away and saying, hey, there's currently plumbing ongoing. They might have shut off the water. Can you please create this maintenance request in 2 hours if the water's still not back at that time? So that's really one of the powers of a homogeneous system, is that it really understands everything that goes on. So for example, in some of our platforms, they have now an AI you can attach to the website. But that AI only knows about what that conversation is. But with our system, where we have chats for tenants, for leases, everything like that, we can know precisely like who is texting us and what is going on with that tenant right now. So we can customize the answers to that. So a tenant can write in like, hey, when does my lease end? And we can send precisely when the lease end. They can ask questions about the contract, and our AI can go read the contract and inform them that, hey, your lease ends on, let's say, January 1st, and after that, it turns to a month-to-month leasing list. Another cool thing we can do is that when a charge is added to the system, our AI will send an email and a text message to the tenant like, hey, a charge was added to your system. But our AI in that case can also go in and verify, hey, do you have auto payment set up? And if not, we're going to send you another text message saying, hey, you currently don't have auto payment set up. Please be aware that you need to make this payment manually, or you can click here or something like that to go and set up your auto payment. So that's really one of the big powers of homogeneous systems, that everything can kind of work together in that kind of flow. So I think that's a very quick overview of kind of how MagicDoor uses AI to kind of streamline everything. So anybody have any questions so far, Tinnitus?
Okay, guys, this is one of the breaks that we're going to do here just to open it up. So please log in, ask questions. I went through this one-on-one myself, and I bombarded Kasper with just questions on how AI worked and taking my calls and different cost side of it. So what do you guys have? Love to see your faces when you're asking questions too.
So I have a quick question. This currently is our biggest issue, is the property management. We are about an hour away from the Omaha Metro, smaller community, so there's not like 5 different property managers competing for our business. We've tried to work with some of the local ones. We've tried to do it ourselves. I'm terrible at it. So I guess, I was super interested in what you had going, and was looking at maybe getting a VA to fill in some of these spots. So what do I gain, like you guys, with the VA? Or if I don't go with the VA and I go with you guys, I guess what's the biggest difference there of what I'm going to gain off of going with you instead of having a VA do it?
So a VA is, just to make sure everybody knows what it is the virtual assistants that you normally hire out of the Philippines, right? Who would take phone calls or text messages for you and kind of run that part of the business for you. Our AI is actually based on top of what a VA does. That was kind of my original idea behind it. So I remember a few years ago, I was at a conference here in Las Vegas and I saw that virtual assistant thing. And I thought to me, like, how is that person in the Philippines whose only skill is to speak English? And you pay them higher price the better English that they speak. How do they know how to deal with a broken garbage disposal? Right? How do they know what to do with a broken AC? They don't. You have to tell them all of those things. You have to provide them what we call a run book. Here's how you solve a main. Here's how you solve a garbage disposal. Here's how you solve an AC. So I thought to myself, like, why not just give that run book to an AI instead, and have the AI do that? Because the AI is not going to miss anything. It's going to know all of the run books to a T. It's going to be available 24/7. It's going to answer them within 1 second and send a text message in. So the benefit of using AI instead of a virtual assistant is that it can do the same thing, but the AI is there 24/7. It can scale to how many units that you might want to have. It doesn't cost you anything extra. You don't have to pay anybody hour. So if you have to hire the virtual assistant in the Philippines, you have to have them like from 8 to 9 or whatever time frame you have. And you have to pay them for those hours, even though you get maintenance requests or not. When our system, you don't pay them anything. It's just for free. And then you get the advantages of the AI on top of it, where the AI can understand everything that goes on. So the virtual assistant, again, is not a property manager. Their only skill is that they speak English. So they're just going to go through the run book, but they're not going to go check if the lease is, what's the status of the lease. They're not going to check what other work orders are there. They're not going to do a lot of all of those other things. And that's kind of where the AI can really take it a step further than what a virtual assistant can do.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we have some questions online here. If you guys jump on and ask, you'll bump me out, but I will ask questions. Ryan, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. So how does it integrate with the different, like say you have an HVAC issue? Does it kind of schedule that with, like you put your list of vendors in there and it reach out to them via text, email? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have what we call AI run books, and you create a run book for HVAC stuff. And those run books can be complicated and they can be super simple. For example, you can have a 1,000-page long run book that goes through a lot of steps that they have to check in before we actually assign the vendor. Or you can have a run book that just say, when HVAC unit break, assign vendor right away. You then have vendors in your system, and you can go in and assign what is your default vendor or what vendor should work on what property. You can also define what hours a vendor should work at. So once the AI decides that we need to escalate this maintenance request about the HVAC to a work order, the AI is going to go through the pre-approved vendors that you have selected for HVAC repairs. And then it's going to select the one that matches within those requirements that you have set. And then it's going to send out a text message and an email to the vendor informing that they've been assigned this work order. And it's also going to create a group text chat between the tenant and the vendor to coordinate them coming out and doing the actual repair work. That makes sense?
It does. I appreciate that. And then
so
another thing that
yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. That's another thing we're going to add with vendors. This is going to come in Q1 of next year, is that vendors can actually text you or email you the PDF of the bill, and the AI is automatically going to scan the bill and upload it into the system for you. So it won't add it to the system, but it'll upload it as a pending approval from you as a property manager. And another cool thing that we're going to do with AI as well, because one of the big powers of AI, again, is that it can understand contexts. So we're also going to have a bidding platform about in Q1 or Q2 next year, where vendors can bid on work. And also, when you get a vendor bill in from vendors, we can compare that bill with other bills from other property management companies in the same area and kind of give you a score for how this bill looks compared to other bills. So like, are you being upcharged and how much? Compared to work, the maintenance request there was, what kind of work was done. So the AI can kind of tell you this looks correct, or hey, it looks like you were overcharged or something. So again, the AI is not going to make any decision if you should pay the bill or not, but it's going to give you more information so you are a little bit more prepared for when you review that bill.
So just going back to talking about the vendors there. So a lot of the vendors that I deal with, they have call centers. And so we've got to actually call into. Is the AI going to be able to handle that right now, or how's that going to work?
So right now we don't support call centers, but we do support if they can take the maintenance request via email. So we can't call them, but what we can do then is the AI can assign a property manager and escalate the work order to a property manager and say, hey, this work order was just created. There's no vendor I can assign to it. Please go and work on it. And then you as a property manager can go and just assign and call in the vendor and get that work order going.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna get in some written questions. If you have questions, just turn your camera on. I'll know that we'll go to you right away. But Kasper, one thing I didn't say is congratulations on your newborn this week.
Yeah, thank you.
Newborn baby, and you're on here doing this, man.
Yes, I have my son Saturday night at 9 p.m.
You're awake.
So I took Monday, Tuesday off.
As you should.
That's how it is.
Jason, you got a question?
Yeah, I manage HOAs as well. Does this support HOAs? Because we're kind of talking more about residential rental side of the house.
Yeah. It kind of depends on what you mean by support HOAs, right? Our Genie and the chat messages reply comes all through the text messages. So if tenant ask in, or if what's it called, anybody in that HOA kind of text you in, the AI can reply to those messages for you. So when you say support HOAs, is something specifically you're talking about there?
Well, so I use Buildium. I'll throw out a program I use. We use Buildium, and it will support residential rentals, commercial property, and HOA management. We get requests for maintenance. It's a paid platform. It's a communication platform. So all these go into it. The only thing it doesn't have is AI, but that's something. It would be nice, but I need to know that it's going to support that function. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we should support everything for HOA. So to be honest, it's not a primary focus. Our primary focus is residential right now. But anything, we have one HOA actually using the platform right now, and collecting HOA dues through that. Is that what you mean? Or you meaning actually as a property manager dealing with an HOA?
Yes.
Okay.
So I collect dues, I communicate with them, they make requests all through the same platform.
Yeah. So in what's it called? We do support that as well. The thing is that we don't really like the naming of the website might not line up with how you think that, but you can very easily use MagicDoor to manage HOAs as well. And the AI there will also be able to engage with everything that when people submit maintenance requests. You might want to change your maintenance request runbooks to kind of match more how an HOA would deal with it compared to how a property manager might deal with it. But it's just right in the runbooks. I can do a demo of those for you guys at the end of the stream.
When it comes to tenant communication, so I use Buildium quite a bit for my stuff now. I used AppFolio back when I was a part of a larger company. Buildium has tenants opt into communications for text message and stuff like that. AppFolio was direct; they didn't need opt into it. How does MagicDoor communication with tenants work and the texting part?
Yeah, there's no opt-in or opt-out. As a tenant, when you input their phone number into the system, you can just go to the tenant and then start texting them directly. So when you send them, we have built a chat system out that's kind of matching Microsoft Teams or Slack, if you guys know that. So when you send text messages out, you can select if you should send text message or email to that tenant as well. You can go in and disable text messages for a tenant if they said you cannot text me at all. But in general, you can just go text message people. And when people send text messages in as well, like we kind of figure out who they are. So if we give every property manager their own phone number. So if you go to Appfolio, Buildium, they have like one phone number for the whole platform. But in our system, each property manager have their own dedicated phone number. So we know that every text that comes in is yours. So it means that, for example, you can use our platform to get Apple codes for when you log into your system, for example. You can have tenants just out of the blue text your property management phone number, and it will show up in the text communication chat, and you can have a dialogue back and forth with them there. So we really want to have what's called a text-first approach to everything, which means that all our communication works via text message as well. So we also found a way to be able to share PDF documents or big images or video files via text message with tenants as well. And we have a full support for when tenants sends memos, videos, or pictures in as well.
Fantastic.
We have a question, and Travis says, "Can MagicDoor automate renewals?"
So yes, so we automate renewals. It's a flow that you can set up where you send out text message to the tenant that hey, your renewal is coming up, and do you want to renew or not? And that takes them to the website where they can then sign the new renewal contract. You have to do a little bit of work to set it up first, like set up ahead of time, and then when the time hits, it's going to send out those communications to the tenants.
Okay. And then one thing I thought was really cool that I don't think you're bringing up much because it isn't fully developed out there is the fact that you're developing a separate website for people to check out the listings, and are using the listings on your kind of like a Zillow, right?
Yeah. So
can you explain that whole concept and when that's going to go active?
Yeah, it's actually active right now. We launched it since our last meeting. So one of the big things is that we looked at the kind of philosophy out there right now where you pay a lot of money to get a website built out for you. And to be honest, it is very easy to do. To build this website for property management company. They're all the same. It's just listings. It's a little bit about us page. It might be like, here's how you can invest with us, custom pages. So it's very funny. Like when I was 15 years old, I actually built a website called subsite.com. And it was a website that was what you call a what you see is what you get editor, where it's kind of like a Word or a PowerPoint. You can just drag and drop things around. And we kind of use that technology as well for our property management company website. So we would generate the website for you, and we would handle all the listings and take listings up and down for you as based on how you list them. But you can also create custom pages for it. And as well, like that website has the tenant portal, the owner portal, and the vendor portal on it. And one of the big philosophies we have there is that anything that is customer or vendor or owner focused for the property manager is all white labeled. And white label means that there will be no MagicDoor branding at all on those websites, which means that you can show them off as a more professional property management company. You don't need to tell people that you're using MagicDoor. I can actually demo that for you guys if you want to see it.
Yeah, is there any other questions you have before we do some quick demos and examples of the site?
That I have one, Mr. Jason. Okay. I want to back up a little bit to the texting interaction with the platform. You're saying that the individual resident is texting the platform. It's not going to my personal phone. Is that correct? Or
correct?
Okay.
So we have a setting that you can enable that will send you an email every time you get a text message in.
Okay. Yeah, I've had problems in the past with people trying to text my cell phone, personal one, and I'm getting 100 texts all at once.
Yeah, like that was the thing I noticed when I was using these other competitors, was that me and my wife, we were kind of like splitting the property management up, and the texting communication on these platforms was so bad that we had a secondary phone that we would carry around with us, and we would constantly forget, hey, where's the phone? Like, who has the phone today? And we've got to charge it. It was in the kitchen drawer or something like that. Therefore, it's very important for me to create like a really robust communication system in MagicDoor, because, and to be honest, as a property manager, 80% of the work that we do is communicating with tenants vendors or owners. So that should really be the first and foremost thing that we design and build out and make work right. So we're also going to launch an app in the Q1 of next year, where you as a property manager also will have the chats on your phone as well directly.
It's hilarious that you say that, because I literally spent an hour today, we call it our dope phone, looking for our second phone that we give all the tenants the numbers, because just like Jason said, my phone would go crazy. So we got a second line. So I'm going to back up to one of the things that Jason said, like with integration, we run Rent Ready, similar to Buildium and all the rest of them. So will the collections, and I got on a little bit late, will the collections go through you guys and then like transfer like through Plaid to our bank or financial institution, or how does the collection process go? And again, I apologize if I missed the beginning.
No, we haven't talked about that at all. I focus mainly on the AI functionality in the beginning.
Yep.
So the collection of rent payments is through Plaid. And one of the things that we do, so if you go with AppFolio or Buildium, they're actually a bank in themselves. So when they get your money in, they hold your money for a few days before they transfer it over to you, because they use that money to go out and invest and make even more money with, because that's technically their cash flow. That comes with a lot of risk as a platform, and also for you guys as well, because you don't have your money at all times. So what we chose to do is that we chose to go with the merchant route. So when you sign up for MagicDoor, you actually create a merchant account with Plaid. So that means that the account that is with Plaid is 100% owned by you. Just in the same way, if you go to Chase or Bank of America, open a bank account there, that is your bank account, that's your money. The difference with Plaid is that you allow us to manage the in and outgoing transaction of that account. That means that we can only send money and get money from tenants who have created a Plaid connection account. And we can only send and we can only withdraw and deposit money from your linked bank account. So the point is that at any time through this process, MagicDoor never has your money. It's always in bank account owned by you. MagicDoor is just allowed to manage the in and out of that Plaid account. And actually, as I think it's the 10th of this month, so it'll be active on the 1st of next month, we are now defaulting to same day ACH. And we only have a 1 to 2 day security hold on Plaid transactions, which means that it would take a maximum of 2 to 3 days before the money is in your bank account from when the tenant pays.
I know with Rent Ready, there is a little bit of a lag there, to where I get a notification that, tenant at 101 Main pays, but it won't go to my deposit for 6-8 days.
To do that, because
they're skimming on it for a little bit.
Exactly.
Do you have any integrated, like I say, I run Rent Ready, which also has their sister company, which is REI Hub, like a bookkeeping and accounting software. Do you guys integrate with any other like accounting software or bookkeeping type stuff, or what would you recommend if we went your route for that?
So we're going to launch synchronization with QuickBooks. But we really want to try to keep our accounting on our platform simplified. One of the biggest differences between us and the philosophy how we design stuff is that Buildium and AppFolio, and I'm not super expert on Rent Ready, but at least Buildium and AppFolio started out as accounting software that then added property management, or decided to focus on accounting for property management down the line. The challenges with that is that they're generalized accounting software. And a lot of property managers, and even myself, I don't know a lot about accounting. And like, what is accounts receivable? What is accounts payables? What is general ledgers? What is double accounting? What is an offset account? Like, all those things are very complicated. And to be honest, as property managers, we don't really need that complicated accounting. We get rent collections in, we pay, we pay vendors and we distribute to owners. And then we pay ourselves out when we charge management fees. It is actually very simple accounting. Now, if you are an owner manager, there can be a lot more accounting to that in it, and that's why we offer that QuickBooks synchronization. But if you're just managing other people's properties, or just have a property where you just just make it run and do maintenance on it, the accounting is actually super simple. And that's why we want to keep the accounting on MagicDoor as simple as possible, but still support all of those things like double accounting, offset accounts, and all the different reports that you might want to have.
Gotcha. because I would fall under, ourselves. We have approximately a 40 unit portfolio that I'm the buyer, I'm the maintenance guy, I'm the manager, I'm the bookkeeper, I'm the guy that does the good, and I'm the guy that does the bad. So
yeah.
So
so I'm that way as well. So I own all my units myself. And the way that I've kind of set it up to simplify my accounting is that I set up a LLC. That's a property management company that just manages my own buildings. And that only manages like maintenance, tenant collection, all that kind of stuff. And then I actually distribute my own money to myself. And then when I have projects like rehabs and stuff like that, I do that out of different accounting. Because if you want to mix those two things together, you can do that, but it adds a lot of complexity that you don't really need to have.
And one thing that came up I'm onboarding one property, and one thing came up in my situation was multiple LLCs. So I was like, hey, do I have to create a whole nother platform for each LLC that we have? Because a lot of us have different LLCs for every multifamily or ever how we're running it. So Kasper, do you want to go down that road with everybody?
So we did have a few conversations with property managers about that, and we would suggest that the way that you should do that is that you have an LLC that owns the property, but you should have an LLC that manage the management of that property instead. Because once you have that, when you have like an LLC for each building, and that each building individually does maintenance requests and works with vendors, you also have to send tax forms out times the amount of LLCs that you have. Where if you just have one company that manages the buildings themselves, you only have to do the K10s or 1099s one time for each vendor. You don't need to send them out for each LLC, but you can still have the individual LLC of ownership of the building, and then just distribute the money to those different LLCs. That also simplifies the accounting a lot more for the given LLCs, because you don't really have all of those in and out for vendors. You just have owner contributions and owner distributions for that LLC. So that would be my suggestion, to kind of go down that path with it instead.
And you can have unlimited bank accounts connected. So if you guys are have one profile, you can have unlimited bank accounts. You have earnest account plus a bank account for each LLC business you have, and then you can, when you're setting it up, you can set up where each one of your funds come in and out of your payouts to your plumbing company and everything, but also the money coming in can come in and out of different accounts.
Correct. So you can even set it down to, like, you can have a building with 4 leases on it. You can have each individual lease actually send money to a different bank account if you want to.
Yeah.
And I could ask you 100 questions. So by any means, don't let me take over this thing, Ted. If there's somebody else that you could see that's asking.
Dude, I did this when I had my one-on-one because I went through this process last week because I wanted to be prepared, and literally I just took over questions like, hey, let's just pause the whole presentation. I just have questions. And that's literally
And I would like, if we could do that, Kasper, is I'll probably, after this, we'll try to set up a one-on-one. Like I say, this is our biggest struggle, and we've got to get something figured out and on it. After I rambled about that, I forgot what I was going to ask, and I didn't write it down. But I don't know what your portfolio looks like, but our setup, we're literally moving towards just like what you said, is structuring, having a management company that does all the collections. So what you're saying is really resonating with us, because we've been focused on growth for so long. We're trying to now that we've grown, we have a dumpster fire, and we're trying to get it all contained.
I 100% agree. That's kind of why I said we've kind of taken the Apple approach, not the Android approach to it, because the Android approach is where Buildium does. This allows you to do anything you want, and like that is great, but sometimes that also allows you to shoot yourself in the foot, right? Where we kind of take more the Apple approach. We have like a more walled garden. Like, here's how you should do stuff, and sometimes like it can be a little bit challenging, but most of the time, if not the majority of the time, it really helps you streamline your process a lot more by having the platform kind of like help you guide you down these paths to do the things the right way. Because it is going to simplify your accounting a lot more. And I do understand how you get to that situation, because you start out growing your portfolio. You build one LLC and you manage that, and you add another one, you manage that, and you are a self-owner manager, so you kind of slowly add to it. But then at a point you said like, oh, I have so many now, like this doesn't make sense anymore. And that's where it makes sense to create that management LLC on top of everything.
It's our analogy is we're in such a hurry, you run the red light, then you look back and go,
yeah, exactly.
Hey Ted, this is Spencer Goldenberg. I hopped on late.
What's up,
but
Spence?
I had a quick question. So, well, first some context. So our group, we don't do multifamily or residential management. So it's all commercial. So do you guys do commercial management, or more catered towards the multifamily residential?
We are focusing mainly on residential property management, but I don't see a reason why you couldn't use it for commercial as well. So we have actually the office we're in right now. The manager of this office is a commercial manager, and he uses MagicDoor now. We got him convinced after we moved in, and they just treat it as like the complex, like this, like plaza we're in is one building, and then each suite is just a unit on that suite. And then the same thing is the same. We have a lease that has to be paid every month. That you can add charges to it. There's maintenance requests that I submit, and I get told every time, "Hey, this is a commercial lease. I'm not gonna fix anything." And then he closes them. But like it's all the same thing. You just might call it something a little bit different in commercial than you do in residential, right? So there's no reason that you couldn't use MagicDoor as well for commercial.
Okay, yeah, because when you guys were talking about, I hopped on late, but you guys were talking about accounting. And that kind of seems like it's the biggest problem you guys are solving, is that piece, because that's been our property manager's biggest hurdle, is the accounting piece. Like, we use, I don't know if you've heard of like Yardi, but that's what we use right now. So would MagicDoor be a replacement of Yardi, or a tool that you could use with Yardi?
It would be a replacement of Yardi. Of course, you could use MagicDoor just for maintenance request and chat functionality. Like, you don't need to use everything on the platform. So if you want to continue using tenant and vendor payout through Yardi and do the accounting Yardi, you can keep doing that, and then just use MagicDoor for a maintenance request, the AI, the communication of that. That's completely fine as well. Like, our pricing model is $2.50 per unit, and which is cheaper than most of those marketplace services you can get, right? So even with that, just the tenant communication itself is cheaper than what you might find out there.
Got it. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, and I'll reach out to you individually, but thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, and guys, you
Kasper,
remember,
how does it?
This is for property managers and for a person that has one unit, so it's for everybody. I know we have a lot of everything on here right now, but I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. How did it work? Like, so you got your lease and a charge, whatever, $1,000 a month, and then you have bill back, and you have camp fee, and you have all these different fees. Do they put it in one charge, or are you charged whatever Plaid charges, $3 for each transaction? How's that work?
So I think there's multiple questions there, right? Like, how do you add fees, or how do we add fees? So
I guess both. Is it rolled up into one payment?
You can decide that yourself. But normally we tend to split out payments into each sub thing. So for example, if you have a utility collection and a rent collection, we do suggest property managers to have multiple charges, one for each, because it makes it easier for tenants to figure out what they're paying. Where if you have like one bill, let's say you rent $1,000, that's $100 utility reimbursement fee. Tenants like to see $1,000 rent, $100 reimbursement fee, rather than $1,100 rent, for example. So you can do both in our platform. So what we call is that a charge is what we call a bill, and a bill can have multiple line items on it. So if you want to add multiple line items, you can do that. As for fees, so we actually support property managers charging a fee for payment processing. So right now in the industry, it's very popular to do what we call a tech fee. And that is a fee. I've seen people charge all the way up to $49 tech fee. I think that's a little bit extreme. But most property managers charge like $5, $10 tech fee a month. That is a fee to gain access to the online platforms, that kind of stuff. And instead of doing that, we actually offer property managers to charge a payment processing fee. So every time a tenant pays, you can add $5 on top of the cost that you would get in as a property manager. So what we show the tenant is that if you go to the tenant ledger and they paid $1,000, and let's say they paid our ACH fee of $2.49, and you charge a $5 fee, the tenant would be charged $1,007.49, but the transaction ledger will show $1,000. So which means that the owners that you might share this with will not see those additional fees that was charged for the tenant for payment processing. But if you do charge a tech fee, for example, you can decide if this should be a company bill or a property bill. So that's actually something I haven't talked about. But one of the big things that we actually do in accounting is that we allow you to separate your income as a property manager from your owner's income. So, for example, you can add a late fee. Let's say a late fee is an income for you as a property management company because you have to do work now to go collect that rent. That is what we call a company bill, but the rent itself is a property bill, which means that for when you do owner distribution, it would only calculate the owner distribution based on the property bills. And the cool thing here is that you can actually go to accounting and you can have accounting for your property, but we also give you accounting for your property management company so that you can see all the charges, like all the incomes you got for rental applications, all the expenses you had for rental application when you had to download reports. We can see the MagicDoor subscription charge. You can see the payment processing fees that you made, or if you pay payment processing on behalf of tenants, you can see those charges come in at the end of the month. That was one of the biggest irritations I had when I used one of the other platforms, is that I texted them and asked, hey, can you guys send me a list of like how many rental applications, what is my income on rental application? They just told me they don't have that. And then I said, okay, but then how can I see how much money I made on rental application as a property management company? The answer to me was that to go print out a list of rental applications and just time it by 55. And that would be my income. And my question to them, okay, but I know I have 2 disputes. How would that be involved? They couldn't do that. And for example, when I asked them, hey, I would like invoices for the payment that I did as subscription cost. And then they had to go talk to the accounting system, and they a few days later sent me over 20 emails with each month as an individual lease, invoice. And so in MagicDoor, we actually have accounting for you as a property management company where you can see all those charges and you can do reports on them as well. Let me see here.
Do P&Ls for each property as well?
Yeah. So you can do P&L, what we have, the way we structure our properties is that you have a portfolio. On a portfolio, you have a property. On a property, you have units, and on a units, you have leases. So you can do a P&L report on any mix of those. So you can take a P&L report for a whole portfolio, one property, or a mix of different properties. So I just want to show an example here of the chat. There we go. You guys see my screen?
Well, it says it's yep, there we go. Right.
Okay. So I just want to show an example here of see if I can zoom in here a little bit. There we go. So you guys can see it. So here we have an example of a tenant here that only speaks English. And you can see here we have the chat message come here. Hi, we have not received the rent payment for November yet. Please let us know when you'll be paying, or we have to hand it over to collections. So this was actually sent to this tenant. You see, they speak Spanish only. So this was actually sent as Spanish to the tenant like that. So even the automated messages that we have that's sent by AI is also translated into Spanish. You can see here in this example where we sent the pictures to a tenant when they moved out and how they just left trash everywhere. And up here, we can see the replies from the tenant, where you can see how the tenant actually replied in Spanish, but we translated into to English for you. So this is kind of an example how you can see that. We have a chat here. This is the centralized chat system. So we group all chats into different categories, like lease chat, tenant chats, vendor chat, maintenance request chats, and direct chats. So for example, here we can go see a chat here with a tenant. This is a tenant who is currently moving out. You can see they sent me pictures that I can very easily see and download. And I can see all of the AI messages that came in. And you can also see an announcement that sent out a system in one single place. The great thing here is that if I go to my property, let me take this one here and take unit 21. I can also see that chat right here on the communication. So the chat I have with the tenant right here. This is rent charges. This is how you can set up automatic payments. So you can add as many as you want. And here you can see the transactions there is with tenants. So you can see like everything that went on, like payments, late fees, other fees, the normal rent, and all that kind of stuff. And you can see here where like what the balance is. And over here we also have what we call posted balance. That's a feature that we offer. So for example, we had a tenant who by mistake, as he said it, charged his Tesla car for 3 months with our power. So we had to have a conversation with him about that, and we made the agreement with him that he's going to pay us off over the next 4 months. And if you use any of your competitors, you can't just add 4 bills of $146. You have to add a recurring payment that charges over the next 4 months. But in our system, you can just go add them with a due date in the future. And what you see here is that he's currently paid his balance in full. But if you look at the posted balance, you can see how that will go up over time. So those will not be included in the balance until they actually are due. And then I want to show you guys our AI runbooks. So we as MagicDoor, we provide you a set of default AI runbooks, but you can also create your own custom ones. So for example, here we have a runbook for an AC condition not cooling property. And for this one, I've written a script that says initially greet the customer and say, sorry to hear your air conditioner not working properly. Like gather some basic information, like what's the temperature setting, is the airflow, what's the thermostat, and that kind of stuff. Like try to troubleshoot it a little bit with the tenant, and also ask them if they change the air filter. Then like that's one thing they never do. I think everybody here can agree on. And then we have escalation criteria. So if there's thermostat issues, air filter, no airflow or user noises or circuit breaker issues, then we're going to escalate, and that means to escalate to a work order that you're going to assign a maintenance request to. Let's see here. Yeah. So here you can assign like what vendors that you want. So you can add vendor overrides for different properties and for different times. And you can also have a property manager to be assigned to that, so you know who to deal with it for. So I want to show reporting as well. So we have all the balance sheet, cash flow, income statement, general ledgers, all the different reports they might want to have. And we have a full suite of accounting as well. So you can see here vendor bills come in, roof leak. This is actually my live data. And we can have a company revenue where you can see your own income, management fees, payouts, and credits. And here's how you can do owner distribution, owner contributions. And we also support checks. So we support manual ACH out, which means that you go to the bank account, do it yourself. We support automatic ACH out, which means you're going to send it out through the Plaid account. We also support print in checks. So if you have any checks, I don't think I have any here in this system, but you can actually print checks and send them out to vendors yourself. So I don't think we have a lot of time to do a very deep dive on the platform. I just want to show you guys how that looked.
Well, we're at the end of the clock. Kasper, if people want to get more information from you, what is the best way to reach out to you or your company?
So the best way is to reach out to contact@magicdoor.com, or you can go to our website at magicdoor.com and contact us via there. And we have people ready to call you guys right away if you have any questions.
And Omaha RIA is a sponsor with MagicDoor, so please tell them that you're with Omaha RIA. It helps us out too. And Kasper, thank you so much. Again, if you guys want to learn more about Kasper, who he is, his background, he was on RIA Radio Podcast, episode 134. And check out omaharia.com for all of our upcoming events, and all the contact information for MagicDoor is also on omaharia.com under the vendors page. And awesome. But with that, Kasper, man, congrats on the baby.
Thank you.
And this is our our best attended webinar we've ever done. So we appreciate that. And
I super appreciate you guys having me on.
And great questions today, guys. It was just you guys participated, and it was just awesome. And appreciate you guys, and love to see you guys at the next event. So appreciate that. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Kasper.